Me and the McDonald's people, we got this little misunderstanding.
Over the years, McDonald's has faced some criticism and has been accused of some questionable acts.
J'accuse!
Which doesn't always paint a rosy picture of the company. But despite everything, there's no denying that people still love the food. Here are the top 10 McDonald's controversies that left everyone shocked. Is McDonald's racist?
Is that racist? It feels racist.
A Swedish ad had quite the backlash when it first hit the public's eye. Many people were offended and beyond insulted by the lack of open-mindedness McDonald's was displaying. That is, until they read the fine print. In big yellow letters, the ad read, "We don't hire Turks, Greeks, Poles, Indians, Ethiopians, Vietnamese, Chinese, or Peruvians," which at first glance can understandably make you want to march down to the head office and give the people responsible for this a piece of your mind. But upon further reading, a new light is shed on the controversial ad. It reads, "We hire individuals. We don't care what your surname is, because ambition and determination have nothing to do with your nationality." This formerly offensive ad is now considered a creative and witty marketing strategy. Not only is the ad not racist, but McDee's is encouraging diversity. Now how's that for not judging a book by its cover?
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
Supersize me.
Okay, you can supersize, but no apple pie.
Oh, come on!
It's no secret that McDonald's isn't exactly the healthiest of foods. In 2004, Morgan Spurlock wanted to see just how true that was. He directed a documentary of himself eating nothing but McDonald's 3 times a day for a whole month. During his journey, he tracked the physical and the psychological effects his food intake had on his life. While eating 5,000 calories per day, which is twice the recommended consumption, he gained about 18 pounds, suffered from increased cholesterol, and struggled with depression. Needless to say that following the release of the documentary, people were not exactly happy. Because of all the negative feedback they received, McDonald's had to remove the infamous supersize option from their menus and made some drastic efforts to offer healthier options.
Hey, is that healthy food?
Then again, some of their salads still have more calories than a Big Mac, so there's still a ways to go before Mickey D's is mistaken for a health food restaurant. The moral of the story is this: eating McDonald's once in a while is harmless, but eat it once or more a day and the doctor will soon be knocking on your door.
Yeah, I remember my first Krabby Patty.
Let's talk French fry. The last thing you would expect to get when you order fries is beef. It's just common sense.
Are you sure they're cooked to a crispy golden perfection?
You'd expect fried potatoes and salt. That's it. Or so you would think. In 2001, McDonald's was taken to court after being sued for lying about the way their famous French fries were really made. The company had previously insisted that their fries were cooked in 100% vegetable oil. But as it was later admitted by McDonald's, vegetable oil isn't the only ingredient in their acclaimed recipe. Indeed, they also use beef flavoring to give that little pep and recognizable taste that everyone oh so loves. You can imagine how that can rub some people the wrong way, especially vegetarians and multiple religious groups. Even though McDonald's issued an apology saying they were sorry if there was confusion, they still use the same beef flavoring today. McDonald's eventually had to pay $10 million to various vegetarian and religious groups, but still doesn't seem to be fazed by their own blatant lie. If you have any dietary restrictions, maybe it's best if you steer clear from the beloved fries, at least in the US.
Daddy, look.
Honey, where did you get that?
The clown gave it to me.
The McAfrika.
What's this? Your food. No.
In an attempt to create menu items from around the world, McDonald's came up with a pita made with beef, cheese, tomatoes, and salad, and inspired by African cuisine. It's not that it tasted bad, but it was in bad taste. You see, this sandwich was sold in Norway, one of the world's richest nations, during the same time a massive famine was happening in Africa.
It is no concern of mine whether your family has... What was it again? Food?
It's easy to see why the release of this item created so much controversy. The irony of it all was just too much for people to ignore and created a wave of backlash. So much so that McDonald's agreed to let hunger relief charities fundraise by installing donation boxes in the Norway locations that sold the unsuitable flop. Honestly, this campaign was either a pure, unfortunate coincidence or a very tasteless lack of thinking.
If what I think is happening, it better not be.
The McCheese's Doppelganger.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture.
If there's one thing that comes to mind when thinking about McDonald's, it's Ronald McDonald. Over the years, Ronald was joined by other characters, which resulted in the creation of McDonaldland, a paradise on Earth for kids. Grimace, Officer Big Mac, the Hamburglar, and Mayor McCheese were all part of the crew. But in 1985, one of those familiar faces had to be forcefully discontinued. It appeared that good old Mayor McCheese bore a striking resemblance to an already existing character, H.R. Puffinstuff. The first McDonaldland advertising campaign came out in 1971, only 2 years after the H.R. Puffinstuff show came out. Coincidence?
I think not!
McDonald's was forced to say goodbye to its beloved mascot, and the rest of the gang followed a few years later, maybe because they all missed him so much.
The Hamburglar was survived by his longtime companion, Mayor McCheese.
Monopoly Shenanigans.
Another case of Monopoly-related violence, Chief.
The Monopoly scam is probably one of the most infamous scandals ever in McDonald's long history. Masterminded by Jerome, call me Uncle Jerry, Jacobson, the scheme started in 1987 and lasted for a long 12 years. Jerry worked at the security company responsible for printing and distributing the game pieces. He saw an opportunity and he took it. He started giving the winning pieces to people he knew in exchange for a cut of their prizes. This went on for 12 whole years before the FBI finally took notice and took him down. Jerry Jacobson was caught, but not before he had already defrauded over $24 million in the process. That's a lot of McD's for one person. McDonald's ended up not being blamed since they didn't know anything about the whole scam, but they still gave away a compensation package of $10 million to 55 random customers. Even though it wasn't technically McDonald's fault, the company's integrity was brought into the light, and a lot of people had lost their faith and trust in their favorite fast food destination. This just goes to prove how easy it is to make or break a company's reputation. And in the fast food game, reputation is everything. The McLibel Case.
They're printing libel about me again. Libel, Liz Lemon!
When a British activist group tried to take down McDonald's, they were met with a big, juicy libel lawsuit. In 1986, the London Greenpeace group went around distributing leaflets that read, "What's wrong with McDonald's? Everything they don't want you to know," and accused the company of littering, mass deforestation, and mistreating animals and workers. McDonald's was not about to let itself be taken down, so the company sued some of the members of the organization for libel. The British court sided with the Golden Arches, and 2 of the London Greenpeace members had to pay $60,000 in damages, but apparently the money was never collected.
Where's the money?
The fight for 15.
Strike! 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 Strike!
Having happy employees is the key to a successful business. And over the years, McDonald's has faced a lot of criticism in regard to the treatment of their employees. In 2014, workers around the globe decided to stand up for themselves and joined the picket lines to protest against the low wages. The strikes took place in over 150 cities and 33 countries. The unified workers were fighting to up the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. Some people who have been working there for over a decade still make the same hourly salary. Employees claim that McDonald's doesn't really care about them, and that whoever said the company couldn't afford to pay them more money was lying.
Hide the money, y'all! There's poor people around!
Whether it was in Brazil, Japan, or Philadelphia, the strikes represented a form of mass solidarity between the low-level workers worldwide, which is extremely empowering for the generations of workers to come.
They have the plant, but we have the power.
Careful, it's hot.
It's hot.
Hot coffee!
You know that label on your cup when you go to McDonald's that says, "Caution, hot"? Well, there is an actual reason behind why you need a constant reminder that your drink is hot. In 1992, Stella Liebeck, a 79-year-old woman, suffered third-degree burns after she spilled a cup of coffee on her lap. After spending 8 days in the hospital receiving major reconstructive surgery, McDonald's thought they should do something to help. So they offered her $800. So she sued the company for $20,000. And when they refused to pay, they took the case to court. When the media took an interest in the case, they painted Liebeck out to be a greedy woman looking for some money, but McDonald's was not following the proper coffee regulations. Instead of serving their coffee at a standard 160 degrees, they served it at 190 degrees. During the trial, it was revealed that over 700 customers had suffered burns from the McD coffee.
Fire!
So the court sided with Liebeck. She was originally going to receive $2.7 million in punitive damages, but the number was reduced to $480,000 since she was found to be partially at fault. Now you know why you constantly see that famous warning label: to avoid lawsuits.
You can't sue me. I'm already being sued.
The strip search scam. There's no question that security should be the #1 priority at a restaurant for everyone, whether you're the customer or the employee, which is why the pranks by a man named David Stewart were so believable and hard to ignore. For over a decade, he would prank call fast food restaurants, telling them he was a police officer and that there was a thief in their establishment. He would then tell whoever was on the phone that they had to conduct a strip search. In 2004, it happened to a McDonald's in Kentucky, where an employee, Louise Ogborn, matched the description of the thief given by the scammer and had to remove her clothes to be searched. Her colleague, assistant manager Donna Summers, complied with the scammer's request, thinking it was actually the police on the line. After over 3 hours of being locked up in an office, Summers eventually called her manager to clear the whole thing up. After the traumatic experience, Ogborn received over $6 million in damages and expenses, and Summers received $1.1 million, on the grounds that McDonald's was aware of the prank happening at other branches, but never warned the employees. Sometimes it might be good to question authority.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Craving another video? Just tap that screen. First time here, then hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell.